皆さんこんにちは。今日は私はフロリダに来ております。今日はアメリカでYouTuber として活動されているKyouさんにインタビューをさせていただきたいと思います。Hi, nice to meet you.
はい、はじめまして。
はじめまして。Could you do the first greeting when you do in your video?
Oh yes. こんにちは皆さん。Kyouです。
Okay, so I've watched your videos and it was very interesting, and I'm happy that you reached out to me to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And I really love Florida and very beautiful lake.
Yeah, it's very beautiful with a lot of bugs and insects. Yeah, that's just part of the whole welcome package. Yes.
I see many iguanas and probably alligators.
Oh
too,
yes,
right?
yeah, a lot of swamp and wildlife. Yeah, yeah, very much.
So okay, this is part of our Florida experience.
The experience, yes.
Okay, so today I really want to ask you about. Actually, I think you already talked in your YouTube video, and
Yes.
many Japanese people I think watched. Your YouTube is mainly focused for Japanese people, right?
Yes.
And I'm so glad because I'm doing this my YouTube channel. One of the reasons I'm here is to connect conservative people or people with common sense, to connect people internationally, because we have many issues similar happening in my country and your country, and you're doing the same thing. And it's very effective and it's very funny. That's what I like about your videos. So could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay. Konnichiwa, minasan, Kyou desu. I run a YouTube channel called BrooklynTokyo with my best friend, which we do reaction videos to many styles of Japanese content, whether that's music, comedy, anything emotional, or sometimes politics. But we do touch on politics every so often when a certain topic comes up, or sometimes people want us to discuss about a certain topic. So anything relating to Japan we talk about or react to. Yeah.
Yes. And recently I watched Shimura Ken's It was very funny.
Very.
I remember I used to watch the comedy when I was little. I was not allowed to watch TVs because TV brainwashes us. But Shimura Ken's comedy was one of the few that I was allowed to actually watch.
Right. He's very funny. He's very funny. Rest in peace to him, but like his comedy is like, it's not too much. It's just like perfect timing. Just how he forms his scripts and his actors, amazing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and look back to those old comedies. They are far from political correctness.
Yes.
And it's still funny, and it's like a part of culture. And we say, but not to just hurt people, but it's like a part of, how should I explain? It's just a part of culture, you know? And we are not to offend anybody, and it was okay. But media started to pick up those things, so it kind of became problem. That's what I think. Right.
And I believe the more of this, like the left narrative, or more of the socialist communists, they try to infiltrate every style of industry. So anything that's, I guess, free from criticism or control, they try to control. And comedy, if a country or a culture controls comedy, then you know something's wrong, because that's one of the most freest forms of entertainment. You know, you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, because people don't understand it's a joke. So when you see there's a certain people trying to control it, then you understand, okay, something's wrong, because it's supposed to be taken funny. It's not supposed to be taken literally, or, you know, most people are smart enough to know, okay, he doesn't really mean that. It's just for a joke, you know? So, yes.
So I would like to move on to the things that you actually, I was very, what should I say? Okay, I was surprised to find out that in Japan, there are a couple organizations claiming that Black Lives Matter in Japan, you know? And if you look into Twitter, there are many BLM accounts in Japanese. And I was surprised, and I kind of noticed that they are trying to make it something that's not really a problem, but to divide people.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Could you please explaining in your thought what's happening in regards to those movements, like what happened last year, or you said like 2014, 2015. That's
Right.
when you noticed the movement, right?
Yes. What I found with this organization, BLM, its founders admitted that they're Marxists and they teach Marxist doctrines and communism. They want communism, socialism. So behind it is a system that once tried to take over the world before with Soviet Russia or communist China. And I believe it's a way to change society, to put in a new regime or a new kind of government. So with BLM, I think because America is so influential, a lot of our problems we actually influence the rest of the world with. So with BLM, because America was screaming BLM so much, I think other countries started to adopt that same narrative, even if that narrative may not necessarily relate to the people living there. Because, BLM, I mean, Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Japan at all. But I do believe because of its origin, its background, the communist regime, to change society, I believe there are people in power, like certain governments or organizations, they want to use this movement to install new laws or new style of just living. So I think it's not really about Black Lives Matter, but more about the agenda behind it. However, I do believe Black Lives Matter has helped to divide more people. I think in America, it's made Americans more aware of race, even though there were polls saying that originally before, Americans thought that racism was actually leaving the country. But since Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and everything that's happened since then, it's causing more division and more stirred more hate towards people. But I think it's more of just a way to promote propaganda, to divide people and to conquer people. So I believe Black Lives Matter does do destruction, but I think it's more of the people behind it running it. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, what would you how would you explain to Japanese people? Because Japanese people, like if we were told like we are being very discriminatory against Black people, like Japanese would say, oh, we like to say "sumimasen."
Right.
We have not done anything, like we just wanted to apologize. That makes it even more difficult to understand what's really happening because media will cut those parts and then use it. Actually something happened. What would you see that's happening? The people who claim that they had experience being discriminated against in Japan. Like what do you see those people?
Do I believe those people are being discriminated against?
Yeah. What do you think what's happening in Japan? Because you've been to Japan too, right?
So this. One thing I would say, I don't think Japan is a racist country at all. I think because of Japan's history, they're very isolated from the rest of the world, and they may be just more ignorant to maybe outside issues because Japan seems to be a very boxed-in country. So I don't believe Japan is racist. I think for Japanese, they mainly see foreigners as gaikokujin. It's not hakujin or kokujin. It's more you're just not Japanese. So when they get accused of racism, I think it's because it's less. I think it's more because they may not know. It's not because I hate Black people that I'm gonna do this. It's more of like, okay, we don't like foreigners because either foreigners don't know Japanese, and I know many Japanese are. If you don't know Japanese, it's very nervous for them to communicate with you. Just part of the culture of communication. You may not know the cultural rules and the societal rules. So dealing with a foreigner may be a little bit more troubling. I don't see that as racist. I just see that as, that's just natural what people do. Things that are not familiar to you, you're not really going to try to connect with this much. But however, when it comes to, BLM accusing Japan of racism, I don't think Japan has any kind of thing against Black people. I think it's more of like, when it comes to politics, I know Japan really doesn't like, typically the Japanese person doesn't like talking about politics. It's a very decisive subject. And I know a common thing with Japan is to keep the harmony with people. I think if Japan wants to clear its image up, it needs to address these topics and understand that running away or not talking about it is going to worsenly affect them or their image, because they'll give the narrative that they are racist, and they're like, oh, so am I saying, I'm so sorry, we don't mean to be that. But it's like, you're admitting to being racist when you're actually not. It's just that it's different than America, where we had a racist background. We had tension between whites and blacks. In Japan, it's more of just, you're not a foreigner. I mean, you're not Japanese. So I don't think the BLM narrative that there's some kind of system trying to hurt black people, I don't think it's the same in Japan at all. No.
I think they are looking for a chance to make it more bigger movement.
Yes.
And they have not seen this opportunity yet in Japan. That's what I see. Actually, I live in Okinawa, and so I'm originally from Okinawa, and I still live in Okinawa. And there are American bases, so many local girls like American people.
Yes.
And especially, actually, there are many girls who goes after black people.
Yes.
Like they are, you know, like they like hip hop, and they have this cool image.
A lot of Okinawa gene. Yep.
They want to date.
Yes. So.
It's totally opposite, you know. So like what is really happening and what being told by media, it's so different.
Yes.
You know, it's like so. And one of the things I wanted to ask you more about was that in your video you were talking about you used to hate white people, right?
Yes.
And you kind of had the opportunity to change your view.
Yes.
Could you explain like what happened? Why you hated white people,
right? And
then why you don't hate white people now,
right? So basically, what happened was that I come from a very pro-black family. My dad, at the time, and a lot of my family members are either part of the Nation of Islam or Rastafarian, and those religious faiths have very anti-white sentiments.
So religion is something related to pro-blacks.
Right. A lot of pro-blacks are either they believe in Black Israelites. I believe that's the name of the organization. The 5% Nation or the Nation of Islam or Rastafarianism, which are basically a lot of faiths that a lot of Black Americans believe or Black Caribbeans believe, and they have very anti-white sentiments in what they believe in. But my family mainly was Christian, but a lot of those talking points were throughout my family, how white men are evil. They've done so much damage to the world and all of that stuff. And for me, growing up, thankfully, I've always been like a free thinker, and I've always, I liked everybody. It didn't matter if you were white, black, Asian. To me, if you were cool, I liked you. But during 2015, when the Black Lives Matter movement started coming up, a lot of those black talking points were being hammered on everybody on social media, from my family, how white people were evil. And suddenly over time, it's like, you started believing that because you see it all over the place. Your friends are saying it, your family's saying it, social media is telling you it. So you're like, this must be true. So eventually, I started having like anti-white sentiments. I started saying like every white person is blessed. They have a better life than me. They think they're better than me. Like I would look at a white person and automatically judge them just because based on their skin color, something that Americans were taught not to do during the civil rights era. And basically, long story short, it made me very bitter inside, because I started hating people, and I'm like, this is a problem. So the first thing I did was went to my pastor, and I was just telling him about it, and he basically told me that, it's not good to hate anybody. God created everyone equal. Everyone has, messed up or done evil. No one's perfect. So I couldn't see myself better than anybody. And then the second thing that happened was actually online. Ben Shapiro, a big political commentator, I found him online. And I started watching his debates and his podcast show, and a lot of the talking points he made sense to me, because I'm very much a person that likes to believe stuff based on facts and not my own opinion. So just hearing him led me to other political voices like Larry Elder, Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell. I love his books, and just from reading and just learning the truth, I'm like, man, this whole leftist dogma thing is a lie. So that's kind of how I kind of woke up and became politically aware as I am now.
So you took a red pill.
Right, major red pill. Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow at first, but I got it down. Yeah.
For Japanese people, it's interesting to hear what you're saying, because when we think about America, it's like America. Like McDonald's, hamburger.
Right. Fast food.
Soda.
Is that right?
Or
Supersize me.
Yeah, they speak English. Like Washington D.C., New York. But I've been traveling in the United States for like maybe half a year since the election. So I learned that it's not just America. Like, there are many people, like community, or it's not just black people or white people. There are many like communities or religion, or what should I say? Like, they have different culture. You know. So I think what you're just explaining, how you were raised when you were little, it's the culture, one culture in America. It's not the whole, right? Could you please teach me a little bit more about like black culture? Or it's not a black culture, I know. Like, there are many culture too, and they have different dialect, and you know. Could you please? What should we know to understand America?
I think America had a lot of founding principles that everyone can come here, have the pursuit of happiness, live the life they want. But I think with that, when you have a mixture of so many different races and people, you need to be unified under one belief system, because it's really about belief. You know, if we have a whole bunch of people who live in the same community who have a different view of the world or don't agree on certain principles, there's going to be division, because it's not really about skin color, it's about what you believe in. Because even with black people, there's Caribbean blacks, there's African blacks, there's American blacks, and even in those groups, we don't even like each other as much. Like, a lot of Caribbean and African blacks will tell you black Americans are lazy or they're ambitious or whatever. Or
wait, so black Americans and Caribbean Americans are different?
We also have different cultures, yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'm American and Caribbean, so I know a little bit of both. But just showing you that even if you are the same skin color, like, just having a different culture, people may not like you. So, for example, there's, of course, you know, there's a beef with different kinds of Asians, with Koreans and Japanese. Even with whites, the Scottish don't like the English. You know, there's always been beef between even races themselves. I think for America, what kept us together was the same values and the same worldviews on life. And I think right now those worldviews are being challenged by the radical left, and that's what's causing more division. And of course, we know with communism, how it pretty much, it tells a group of people you're being oppressed. Either you're too rich, you're a male, you're either gay, you're straight, you know, we're divided on those lines. Like, it's white against black, it's poor against rich, it's you know, you believe in God, you don't believe in God. It's like they're constantly trying to divide us. And I think in America, it's great that we are able to be the melting pot and we can have a sense of harmony what we had so far. But I think that if we don't share at least some core values and same worldviews, there's no way we can function as a society, because we need to be on the same path or same thinking pattern to function as a society. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
So there are many like cultures.
Yes.
But they are all united under one belief.
Right.
That's
one belief.
The fundamental
of America. Yeah.
Of America.
Exactly.
I see. And during my coverage last year, I went to Washington D.C. or Portland. Many dangerous
Portland,
places.
yes. Oh yes.
And I was kind of shocked how America is no longer a country of freedom. I'm afraid to say so, but that's what I have experienced too in social media. Like, I'm Japanese and I'm seeing what's really happening, and I just report as it is. But like YouTube, it's famous, but even me talking in Japanese about American politics or what's happening, I'll be cancelled. And I have an experience in Hawaii. It was like 5 years ago. I was invited to talk about what's happening in Okinawa, because we have huge leftist movement try to get rid of American bases.
Right.
Because they are pro CCP. They wanted to make a good condition for CCP to invade Okinawa. So the local people in Hawaii, there are many people migrated from Okinawa, so they are worried about their home country. So I was invited to talk. But then when the organizer was threatened to cancel my speech, because according to them, I'm a racist.
That's the go-to. You're racist. Yeah.
Yes. And when I started to talk on the podium, there was women and men suddenly stood up and then said, "You gotta speak in English," because I was asked to speak in Japanese. I was still speaking in Japanese, but they said like you're racist. You're trying to speak in Japanese because you do not want us to understand. You know what I mean? Like, so
they called you racist to Japanese people.
Yes, so they were basically saying like me talking in Japanese is discriminatory against them because they cannot understand Japanese. They wanted to understand me so that they can attack me more. You know? So that was very interesting experience. And I asked them, I thought America is a country of freedom. Like, why don't you let me speak?
Right.
When I started to argue, I didn't start, but the whole crowd was saying, "Go out, go out!" You know.
Right.
So they have to. They were taken outside. So it was very experienced. But that was when I learned something is strange in America. And here we are now, and I'm like witnessing America is falling apart.
Yes.
And I'm very
sadly.
worried because whatever happens in America directly affects rest of the world, especially Japan too.
Yes.
And as a young opinion leader, what would you see happening in your country now?
Well, I think a lot of people compare America to Rome, is that Rome wasn't defeated by outside power but fell from the inside, because Rome was a powerful military state and America is a very powerful military state. I think the massive division we have culturally with different races, but not only that, the cultural breakdown of the family, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, you know, what is the duties of, what is the purpose of people, you know, a lot of different religious beliefs. So we don't know what to believe in or what is true, what is not true. So the very foundation, the building blocks of a society are being attacked. I think America's enemies know that they can't attack us directly. So what they would do is they help promote propaganda to destroy the social fabric. And again, once you attack the founding principles of how to make a country run, the country is on its way to destruction. So I would say America right now, I've also heard there's also a common a theme that the height of a country's power lasts about 250 years. And they say we've either reached 250 years or we're about to reach it. So they say pretty much America is about to finish her run as the world superpower. But I also, like you said, believe that whatever affects America affects the world. And I think that many of other countries who have interest in, you know, dominating the world, like China, for example, seeing America fall is a plus for them, because now that's like one big hindrance away from them achieving their goal. So I think that if America falls, we'll definitely see a fight for power with other countries. But I also think that we won't be the same country again. I think we'll be so divided that America will lose her strength. But a lot of people do compare her to Rome, because that's how Rome fell. It fell from the inside out because a lot of the foundations of Rome were being destroyed. Yeah.
What about your friend or your family in Black community? Like, are you only the one like conservative, or your friends pretty much have the same opinion? What's?
For the longest time, I was the only conservative in my family. Yes. Even with my close friends. Recently, my sister has come around and she's more conservative in her views, and we agree a lot more on things now. My older sister. But since I became politically aware, red-pilled or conservative.
How many years ago, or when was it?
It was 2017, so this is about 5 years ago now. About 5 years ago, I was only conservative, and it was hard. It was hard because being a Black conservative is seen as like an oxymoron. You're not supposed to exist. You're either a Black liberal. Yeah, you're not supposed to exist. You're either a Black liberal, leftist, or you're nothing at all.
So you will be treated badly in the community?
Yes.
Oh.
I think I believe this is common for any group of people, but specifically for Black Americans, we have a thing called the Black identity, which means that if you don't act, talk, or believe a certain way, you're not really considered Black. So for Black conservatives, we're not considered real Black people because we don't think a certain way.
Really?
So yes. So, you know, I think whites, Asians, and Latinos have more leverage in what they want to believe, and they're still considered part of the group. But as far as like Black conservative, if you don't support BLM or the racist narrative or the white supremacist narrative, then you're not considered really black. So, and that's how they insult you. They either call you Uncle Tom, you're a bootlicking, black guy, you sucking up to white people, all kind of really bad names. But I think that's because a lot of the white liberals and so-called black leaders have taken a narrative that unless you think a certain way, you cannot be a black American. So sadly, they have robbed that image of black people. So it's been rough. Yeah, you do get a lot. I get a lot. Actually, I've gotten a lot more hate by minorities and black people for being conservative than I have whites. And part of the reason why I also became conservative is because most of the struggles I faced were actually from my own group. Because we have very much a crab in a barrel mentality.
What are crabbing?
In a barrel. Basically, when a crab tries to leave a barrel, the other crabs will grab it and drag it back down.
Wow.
So if a black person is trying to improve their life, speak proper English, get a good education, get a good job, you're seen as, oh, you think you're better than us?
So it's other than politics too?
Yes.
Oh.
It's politics and culture, but politics is downstream from culture. So, but yeah, even if you don't think the same or you're trying to better your life, there's always trying to pull you back pretty much. So you're not black enough, you're not really down with the brown, as they would say. But yeah, I've had a lot more difficulty with my own people for my views. Yeah.
Wow. So then for you to speak up and make YouTube videos and talk about your own thoughts, beliefs, it's very huge deal.
Yes. Yeah. yes. A lot of pushback, a lot of hate. A lot of people saying I'm deceived and I just want to be white and all these other kind of stuff. Yeah.
What would you say to them, or how do you overcome these attacks?
Me, I just try to be as patient as possible with people. I understand that I used to be in that mindset too, so I gotta understand they haven't heard another viewpoint, because when you live your life boxed in like that, we haven't heard the other side. It's easy to want to attack something. But I would always try to tell people, try to understand what the person is trying to say. If you disagree, you disagree. But at least try to understand why the person thinks that. How did they come to that conclusion? I would try to, be as, mature as I possibly can, because also how you react to these stuff also affects how people receive your message. So also trying to be as mature, try to outline my problems as much as possible, my viewpoints as much as possible. But at the end of the day, if they don't, they still hate me, whatever, just dust off your shoulders and move on. There's not much you can do, So I just pray that at least if you don't want to at least come to what I think is true, at least consider why we do think that way. Try to understand people before you try to criticize them, Yeah.
Is there any advice for people who wanted to convince or try to explain, try to give opportunity to see different view? Like how would you do?
Advice to a person trying to convince other people?
Yes.
I would say do your research. Know what you're talking about. Read books, look at commentators, because you have to know without a shadow of a doubt what you believe is true. And then when people ask you, okay, where did you get this info from? You can lead them to your sources, because a lot of conservative views are based off facts and statistics and stuff like that. Another thing I would say is don't go out trying to look for battles. I think people get too caught up in trying to argue with people. I don't want to argue with anybody. I just want to have a discussion. I think if we could sit down and have a good conversation and exchange ideas, I think we'll make a lot more progress than trying to win an argument, because it's less about looking for truth and more about I'm trying to beat you in a debate. So I wouldn't go out there trying to look for fights, but try to reason with people. Understand that people are not going to like you, and you just have to accept that fact. But how you respond to the backlash also says a lot about your character, because if they can't argue your points, they're going to attack your character. So you want to make sure that you're walking with integrity, so carry yourself with dignity, know what you're talking about, but also don't look for fights, and just be as truthful and honest as possible. And whatever the result you get, but just continue moving on and doing your best to, trying to enlighten people.
Thank you. And we have 10 more minutes to go.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I want to move on to why you love Japan. Because this question is very important for Japanese. Because we are in school, we are taught to hate Japan. So when we see people like you, we suddenly, oh really? Japan is such a good country. We get proud back again.
Right.
And so I wonder why you love Japan so much to decided to make YouTube channel for Japanese people.
So I think like most Westerners, it starts with anime. A lot of how the West was introduced to Japan was through animation, the Japanese animation. And especially I'm from that era of kids who grew up with watching anime on our local TV. And I think over time, as the internet also became more prominent in the 2000s, we were introduced to more like Japanese style of entertainment, you know, and music and all that. So for me specifically, the 2000s, during my high school years, when I really started getting into anime, when I was kind of a otaku in a way, a nerd, you know. And I think most people who are into anime or video games from Japan, they eventually want to go to Japan. So I wanted to go to Japan. So I started researching about the culture, and I just started to fall in love with Japan. Just the way they thought, how the country came to be, the societal rules. It's just so interesting to me. And I think also with that, I also fell in love with just learning about other cultures in general. But I just started getting a huge love for Japan. And it gravitated more from just liking the entertainment to actually studying about the country. And then when I also learned about the country, like the problems Japan has, it made me worried as well, because Japan is a very influential country, especially in Asia. And I think Japan has a huge voice. And right now, when I got politically aware, a lot of stuff I was learning about America, I see Japan is kind of going through some similar things in a different way. And for me, is that I wanted to make aware of these things are happening, but also try to get solutions to these problems as well. So it started with anime, but it transferred to actually liking the country itself. Especially when I went there to visit in 2014 and 15, it's a weird feeling. I just felt like I was home. It's weird. I know a lot of people say that, but I just feel like very homey. And not only that, I had one of the best experiences of my life. The people who hosted me treated me like family. They washed my own clothes. They fed me. They didn't allow me to spend any money. They took me everywhere. They loved me. Like they even cried when I left. So to me, to receive such hospitality in my life, like I'm like, wow, these people are amazing. Of course, not every Japanese person is like that, but just my experience and people I've met, you know, I have nothing but love for Japan. I just had a great time, and I love the country, and I hate to see her fall. You know, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
And so you were there as an exchange student, or you were traveling by yourself?
I was just traveling by myself, yeah. Originally, I wanted to go to school there, but it never worked out that way. But I met friends who are my friends for life, who are like family to me. And we keep in contact. And one of my friends who I actually met online and met in Japan, he actually helps me run the BrooklynTokyo channel I have right now. Edit-san is his name. Yeah, I was originally wanted to be a student, but didn't work out that way. But now I just want to talk about Japan. You know, yeah.
I see. What are the things that you Japanese people should be aware of? Because you said you wanted to wake Japanese people up, right? That's one of the things that I'm trying to do as a Japanese too. And I realized that I actually came here, America, to learn how American conservative people are fighting against liberalism. But I learned that people here are also struggling too. And families are tearing apart, and children are taken hostage, like in school. Taught brainwashed.
Critical race theory and all these other nonsense.
It's horrible. You know. So I learned many things from conservative or real American people, I should say. But also, I realized, American people need to wake up too.
Yes.
It's like we see same kind of thing in a different position.
Right.
What do you see Japanese people are, what should I say, not aware of or sleeping?
I would say similar to America until Trump ran for president in 2015. A lot of Americans were kind of ignorant to politics. I think that event made Americans more aware, and I think awareness is the first thing. I think I know since World War II I've heard that America kind of made Japan very docile or avoiding politics or anything kind of heavy. I think the Japanese people need to start researching again and getting into politics and understand who's running the country and where the country is going, because I think when people are ignorant to what's going on, it's a lot easier for people up top or different countries to infiltrate and change stuff because you don't know. I think education is the first thing. I would say also you can't be afraid to talk about serious issues, because if you don't, it's kind of like, I use the example of like cleaning your room. Your mom tells you to clean your room, you just put all the things under your bed and it looks like it's clean, but actually there's a lot of filth still in there and it could get moldy. So I think that avoiding these tough conversations are not going to help. We need to have some sort of dialogue and not be afraid to talk about hard ideas. But not only that, I think doing your research and understanding how government works, how people function, how societies function, knowing all these fundamentals will help you in doing your research, who to follow, who to vote for. But I think that many Japanese should be aware of what's going on and understand that their country is under attack, whether they know it or not. And I think similar to America, a lot of Americans are waking up now because we're seeing the product of being ignorant to allowing these, you know, so-called leaders and politicians to take over and mess up the country. So I think that for Japan, my message would be, you know, do your research, look into things, but don't be ignorant to what's going on. Look up the politicians that are running your cities and your country, and do your research, and get your voice out there, I would say.
Thank you. Yes, and especially living in Okinawa, I grew up with some kind of like, always in my mind, CCP is after, especially Okinawa, because it's the entrance of the country,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And they are claiming that Okinawa is their island.
Yes.
You know, and our local governor, like politicians, they don't fight. And for example, it's like it happens almost every day. Chinese Coast Guard ship will come closer to our islands, but they say they are doing patrol in water,
Right.
territorial water in Japan.
Right.
But then our governor said, we should not disturb their patrol. That's what our politician were saying. So I'm trying to wake Japanese people up, but at the same time, people like you are warning Japanese people. That's very helpful, and I really appreciate.
Yes.
And I think I talked in the beginning, I think even though we live in different countries, we have the same enemies.
Yes.
And same phenomenon,
Yes.
same problem. So in order to
I would say the CCP buying out our politicians, because we're having the same problem in America where Joe Biden sold out to China. So a lot of these politicians are not going to do anything because their allegiance is to China, not their own country. So yeah.
Yeah. So in order to protect Japan or United States for you, it's very important to come closer. Like not only me working in Japan,
Yes.
saying we need to protect Japan, but we need to come closer each country.
Yes.
Like patriots in each country
Yes.
need to come closer to help each other, protect each other, you know. For example, in Japan, we have this BLM potential movement, but if you could talk to us, like explaining what is really happening, then like, oh, you know, it's really easier for us to understand,
Right.
rather than me saying BLM movement is not fake. Like I can say that because I saw this in America, and I talked to many black people too, but people like you, if you could directly talk to Japanese
They'll
people,
believe me more since I am
yes,
I'm black, so I guess my voice would reach them more than vice versa. Or let's say I was talking about Japan, hearing it from you could probably reach them a lot more. Well, depending on the subject, but I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right. We come together to help each other out because
Yeah,
our voices
yeah.
are needed for whatever cause. Yeah.
So I really appreciate what you do, and I hope you will keep doing what you're doing,
Thank you.
and eventually I really wanted to invite American conservative people to Japan.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would love that.
I really hope you could come. Like,
Yes.
Because now we have government stupid restriction that no foreigners can
Into Japan.
enter
Yeah.
Japan,
Yeah,
and
sadly.
it's destroying the country. So I really hope that Japan will go to what should I say? The healthy environment.
Yeah. Yes.
And
yes. Yes.
people like beneficial people like you will be able to come to our country.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so lastly, could you give Japanese people a message? Like you can introduce your YouTube channel or like any message to anything you want to talk to.
Perfect. Hello everyone. So if you want to follow me on social media, I do have an Instagram at BrooklynTokyo. Also, our channel is also BrooklynTokyo. So if you guys want to check out our content, you're more than welcome to do so. Send me a DM because I do reply back to messages. But yeah, thank you guys for the follow. Thank you guys for the support. Really appreciate you guys, and go Japan. You know? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for having me.
I hope this friendship will start.
Yes, I do as well.
We can be good friends. Yeah?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty.